Hello, everybody. Cheers. Just finished dinner. Got the kitchen cleaned up, and I've spent the last 15-20 minutes watering plants outside with this massive heat wave we've going on. Wanted to pop on here and answer a question. Pam Fullwider made a post yesterday. She had listened to some type of a podcast or read some type of an article and was talking about aerating wine. It was talking about tannins in the wine. And her basic question was, according to what she read or watched, was that if you leave the wine open for a while, it allows oxygen to get down inside of it, and it opens the wine up and it smooths the wine out. And so Pam's question was, if a wine has got heavy tannins, does that basically moderate the tannins somewhat? And the answer to the question is probably not. There's a couple of points to be made here. When a wine, let me take that a little bit further. She said if that's the case, and she said you should let the wine, and the article or the podcast said you should let the wine sit for a couple of days. So her question was, to take it a little bit further, was why wouldn't you leave the wine in the refrigerator for a couple of days? Okay, here's the, and I haven't done any research on this other than 40 years, 50 years of experience. When you open a bottle of wine, let's make a couple of assumptions. Let's make the first assumption on a bottle of wine that you open that there's not strong tannins. Okay, so let's take that premise. So when you open the wine needs to be exposed to oxygen in order for the flavors of the fruit to really come out. If it's a fresh wine, like 99% of the wines we drink, we swirl it in the glass, and that's all we need is to allow the swirling in the glass to allow the oxygen to get down into the glass of wine and to allow the esters, the flavors, to come up out of the wine. Okay, so that has nothing to do with tannins. I understand that. Now, if you take an old wine, a lot of times they will suggest that if it's an older wine, that you aerate the wine, either pouring it through an aerator, which I have a couple, and I could show you one on a podcast sometimes, or you decant the wine. Decanting, of course, serves a secondary purpose of removing any of the impurities, such as an old cork pieces or even what we call a little bit of the must that has fallen to the bottom of a bottle of an old wine. But it also allows the oxygen during the decanting period, allows the oxygen to get into the wine. And again, it does the same thing as swirling in the glass. It allows the oxygen to get into the wine, and what happens is the esters are released, the flavor is coming out. So the first part of the question is, why do you not want to leave it in the refrigerator for a couple of days? Well, the basic answer to that is 99% of the wine already is ready to drink immediately. So putting it in the refrigerator, first of all, you have it corked in the refrigerator, or you have a wine stopper in the wine in the refrigerator. So no more oxygen is getting down to it. So the wine is not evolving at all once you open it and you put it in the refrigerator. Well, in addition to that, the colder temperatures in the refrigerator would stunt any change that's happening in the wine. So there is no reduction in the tannins. The tannins are not changing in a wine that you feel is too tannic and you want to have it sit for a couple of days. That isn't going to do it. There is not going to be a change in the tannins. Now, let's shift over a little bit to the aspect of a wine that has too much tannins. Tannins is a natural occurring substance. Some wines, I admit, they do increase and artificially add tannins into it. Tannins is the bitterness that comes from the pips and the stems, as I had said to you several times over the last few months. It gives us that astringent taste, that puckering of the tongue taste that's in wine. Tannin offsets acidity. Grapes naturally have sugar and acidity when wine is fermented. So if a wine is too acidic, too acidy, it becomes somewhat harsh in the sense of bitter, in a sense of just, it's too strict. I don't know exactly what the right words might be. It does not allow the fruit to come through, which is the purpose of all winemaking, is to allow the fruit to come through. Acid tamps down and suppresses the fruit. Okay, so now the question comes up with tannins. How do you suppress tannins? There is only one way to suppress tannins in a wine. If a wine has a lot of tannins, only time in the bottle, sealed, the original bottle sealed, will the tannins moderate some and allow the fruit to come forward. So if a wine has got very heavy tannins, it's an age-worthy wine, and you'll see a lot of the old classics that sometimes you age for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. They have heavy tannins. The reason they're aged, I'm sitting here watching a deer run through my front yard as we speak. Okay, so aging the wine allows the tannins to moderate some, because in the early stages of that wine, if you was to open it immediately, the tannins would be bitter, the fruit would be almost non-existent. The key is to balance the tannins with the fruit, just like you want to balance the acidity with the fruit. So if there's too much tannins, allow the tannins to moderate on their own over a period of time, whether it be months or years, in order to allow the fruit to come up, the tannins to go down. So most wines that we buy, 99.9%, are not heavy in tannins. They're not made that way. They're not made to age for 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They're made for immediate consumption. Only the classics, the $300, the $400, the $500, the $1,000 bottles of wine are heavy in tannins, and those are made to age 5, 10, 15, even 50 years. We don't experience those wines. I've had a few of them. Most of us won't get those very often. So the answer to Pam's question is, can you leave the wine in the refrigerator and expect the tannins to moderate some? The answer to that question is no. And again, it goes back to the same with the acidity versus the fruit. If the wine has been opened and it's in the refrigerator, nothing is going to happen on that wine. It's predominantly at that point the wine has died for all intents and purposes. It's not changing. So your tannins are not moderating. They're not evolving. So then, while I'm telling you about this, my friend Terry posts, does it hurt the wines to leave it in the fridge for a couple of days? The answer to that question is absolutely not, and you're encouraged to do that. Now, let me address that question. Most people generally are not Wayne. They don't drink a whole bottle of wine in one day. So they open a bottle of wine, they drink 1 or 2 glasses, they have half of the bottle left. What do they do with it? Well, you put a cork back in it, or you put a stopper in it, or something, obviously, to keep insects out, to keep air out. Air is another issue. So then the idea is, do you leave it on the counter, or do you put it in the refrigerator? If you leave it on the counter, that wine is going to be okay for a couple of days. If you put it in a refrigerator, that wine is going to be okay for a couple of days, plus a couple of more days. You will not see a big change in the taste of that bottle of wine from the day you open it. Say you open it on a Saturday, and then you drink half the bottle and put it in the refrigerator. You pull it back out of the refrigerator the following Thursday. You aren't going to see a big change in the taste of that wine. Now, will it last forever in the fridge? Of course not. We know that. I would not leave a bottle of wine in the refrigerator more than 4 or 5 days before I finish drinking it. I do that occasionally. I'll open a bottle of wine. I won't drink the whole thing because of whatever reason. So I stick it in the refrigerator, red or white, doesn't matter, with a wine stopper in it. It may be 3 or 4 days before I get back to drinking that wine. It will lose a little bit of the fruit forward. It'll lose a tiny bit of the freshness, but not a lot enough that you and me and most of us in this group would even really notice. So I hope I answered Pam's question that putting it in the refrigerator is not going to moderate the tannins. The tannins are still going to be there. The only way to moderate tannins is over a long period of time. And to answer Terry's question is, yes, of course you can put your wine in the refrigerator. Nothing wrong with that. I do it all the time. And as a matter of fact, I opened a bottle of the Argentinian Merlot that I did the wine tasting on about, 2 hours ago or so. And so that bottle of wine I'm working on tonight, I'm drinking it. I'll probably finish the bottle. However, I got home last night from my camping trip with my runaway camping group. I wanted some wine. So I opened a bottle of Pinot Noir. It was too late to do a wine tasting officially. And so I just wanted to drink a little wine. So I opened the bottle of Pinot Noir. I drank a glass, just one glass out of that whole bottle. It was a screw top. I put the screw top back on. That wine is now sitting on my tasting bench in my upstairs tasting room. I didn't even touch it today because I'm working on the Argentinian Merlot that I did the wine tasting on. So that bottle of wine is about half to 3/4 full, that bottle of Pinot Noir, as a matter of fact. I probably won't drink it tomorrow night because I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Charleston. I won't drink it Saturday night because I won't be home. I will probably not reopen that bottle of Pinot Noir, Terry, until Sunday. So what will I do? If I'm a smart man, I will go in as soon as we get off of this podcast. I'll go in and get that bottle of Pinot Noir and pop that puppy in the refrigerator so it stays a little bit fresher. But if I was to leave it on the tasting bench in room temperature, I would still drink it on Sunday night. So I don't know if I answered anybody's questions completely. I hope you have a little bit of understanding of what I'm trying to say. But that was a great question that Pam posed. That was a great question that Terry on the spur of the moment posed when he was popped onto this podcast. So guys, I appreciate those comments. That's what we're all here for, is to learn and try to learn a little bit more about wine and how to enjoy the wine a little bit better. So, do you guys have any questions? Send me messages. Make a post on Wayne's World of Wine. Let's go back to another question that I had a little while ago. I am considering moving from Facebook podcast and creating a YouTube channel of Wayne's World of Wine, where I do all these podcasts on a YouTube channel. I need some comments. I need some feedback. Do you like that idea? Do you not like the idea? Do you feel like it'd get too big? Do you feel like you would lose control? So that's the question that I have. Ray, I see you just came on. I'm getting ready to get off of here. I, honest to goodness, Ray, would hope that you would go back, and this has probably only been about an 8 or 9 minute podcast. That was a spontaneous podcast. I hope that you would go back and take a quick listen to it. All right, gang. Well, thank you very much. Terry, thank you for the question. Pam, when you have a chance to watch this video, thank you for the question that you posted on Facebook, and I hoping that you guys got a little bit more insight. And Shannon down in Florida, living her best life. Thanks for popping on. And Jay, thank you for popping on too. So, all right, guys, I will let you go and talk to you later. Thanks very much. Bye.